Right, good morning. It's another day for a podcast. Christ, it's just such a hassle having all these cables and stuff. I'm just walking around the campus Galway in Ireland. It's the nearest I ever get to going to university is walking around campuses. And I'm trying to get these levels right on this on the recording. I've got so many cables and things trying to fiddle with auto this and not auto that. It reminds me of a friend of mine who always said he was going to start Alpine climbing and winter climbing when he was older. When he was an old man, he thought it was all going to be really easy, and eventually we ended up going to the Alps together in the winter time. And I think we were going to go and do a Rolling Stone. We're going to try to climb the Rolling Stones on the Grand Juras, and we set off. Went up to the hut on the way. What's it called? Is it the Shore Hut? I can't remember anymore. Anyway, there's that hut. Pretty miserable hut, really. Lots of interesting stories about that hut, where people have got sort of stuck in there in the winter because the doors used to open outwards. So if there was lots of snow, you couldn't get out. And that actually happened to me once. I seem to spend a lot of time in that hut without ever actually really climbing anything. I once got stuck in that hut for about a week. I think it snowed it's just snowed constantly for a week, and we had to make our own snowshoes to try and get back to the valley. And it took us like 2 days to get back to the valley, and it was probably the nearest I ever got to being killed in an avalanche. And anyway, that's a story for a bivouac. Anyway, but back to my friend Paul. But anyway, eventually we got to this hut, and there was like a soloist who was going to go off and try and solo the Colton McIntyre, and he was like a Spanish guy, and he just sat there like all night long, like looking at a candle, like he was going to die in the morning. So it really sort of lowered the tone of the evening. And then I think in the morning he probably just like buggered off, went back and got a girlfriend or something. And anyway, I set off with Paul. I think we might have had some skis or something, or some snowshoes. Anyway, we started, we got up at like 2 a.m, then started like heading over towards the Grand Juras. It was like in the winter time, and I think I didn't get very far because he just really hated all the slings and all the ropes and all the junk you have to have when you're like winter climbing, like all the you're tying in, you're like tying in short and stuff, and the rope, and the slings are all tangled up, and he just hated it, and he was just like, fuck this, I'm not doing this. And so it's the little things, isn't it? It's not like how difficult the climbing is. It's just all the fannying on around it. I think getting up really early in the morning is not good as well. Like if you spent like years of your life in a Rapalese where you just roll out of the tent at 9 o'clock and have a cup of tea and then just start climbing the crags right there, why on earth would you want to go Alpine climbing? I have no idea. God, the idea of getting up early, oh God, that's the worst thing about it. Oh God. I've been a bit of a downer for some reason. I think I've been ill. I've been ill for about 3 weeks with this stupid cold. I don't know if I've been getting like extra servings of illness. So I've just been I'm about to go back to the Middle East, to my unidentified country, where I live in the Middle East, which sounds interesting at the moment. Sounds like you might have a little war going on soon. Anyway, it's never boring. I've got a friend in Kenya, in Nairobi, called Fish, I don't know what his real name is, but anyway, I think even his email address says Fish, so Fish. And we said to him, like, why would you not want to live in Europe? You know, Europe, it's like it's a nice place to live. And he was like, no, it's too boring. And I think the Middle East is a bit like that. It's like it's probably the safest place you'll ever go. Like the safest place I've ever been in my life, the Middle East. But at the same time, it's a bit like El Capitan. In that, if you compare like El Capitan to the Troll Wall, like the Troll Wall, like there's like rock falling down the entire time, like rock the size of a house, rock the size of a brick, just like constantly falling down. It's like fucking death on a stick. Where El Cap, like very rarely anything falls down, but if it does, it's like the size of a school or something. So the chance of being killed there are pretty minimal. But when they do happen, they'll probably wipe out the whole of the Yosemite Valley or something. So the Middle East is like that. It's actually very, very safe, much safer than England, Ireland, anywhere in Europe. Really, really safe. You can just leave your computer on the table in a cafe outside, your wallet, all your stuff. Just go wandering around. You come back. Thievery is punishable by death, and having parts of your body chopped off, and so that's probably one reason why. So what was my point? Oh yeah, so I've been ill for about 3 weeks, and I think when you feel ill, like everything's, you have no, what was it, health, your health is your wealth, isn't it? So but yesterday was quite nice. Someone said how Vanessa, my wife, she seemed to be one of the few sort of women at the moment who are actively going out and doing sort of alpine-y, sort of wintry, sort of big wally stuff. There's lots of really good women doing really hard rock climbing and sort of like high altitude mountaineering and things, but she seemed to be like one of the few doing, I think in the last year we went on Denali in the winter time, and I think she got the highest of a woman. I don't really like all that kind of stuff, all that woman, men, trans stuff. I don't really think like that, but anyway, but she just happened to be a woman and got very high on Denali in the winter time, and and I think in the same year she climbed A4 on El Cap and tried all sorts of weird stuff. Anyway, but anyway, it's kind of funny because I don't think she decided she doesn't like all that kind of stuff. She doesn't like getting up early in the morning, and she doesn't like aid climbing anymore. She said like it's just kind of cheating, which it is. She'd only go on El Cap. I'm going through a tunnel now, so I was like, I've got an interesting sound effect going on. So she, she's not really into it anymore. She's thinking of having a baby. I guess I'll have to be involved in some capacity. And maybe that's always the thing about women when they get into alpine climbing and everything else. Is like most women tend to want to have kids, and no matter how you could try and frame it in some different way, like it's other people's fault, but I've met like 2 friends of mine recently who've just had children, 2 women who were pretty hardcore individuals, and both of them have just said they're a psych for doing anything dangerous, has completely been destroyed by having this child. So maybe Vanessa's the same. Who knows? I'm sure there'll be many podcasts of stuff to talk about if we have a baby. So someone said, because I'm 48, so the idea of having another baby, like bloody hell. Like my kids are only just grown up. So my daughter's 21, my son's 18, I think, keeps changing, and so it's like coming out of prison after 21 years, and then someone saying, sorry, we've made a mistake, you have to go back in again. So Although saying that, my kids are probably my kids and that book Higher Education I wrote are the three of the things I'm most proud of in my life. So although saying that, I shouldn't really be proud of them. They're probably all down to them. It's nothing to do with me. Although the book is, I did have to write it also. But anyway, but someone said, what do you think about having more kids? And I've kind of taken this, I've taken the position that having children is a bit like death, as in you don't really get to choose. It's just something you have to go with, really. Maybe that comes from living in Ireland, but so what's this podcast about? God, I've been talking too long already. So this podcast, it's that time of year, isn't it, where everyone starts just going on about all sorts of shite about like, oh, do this for the new year, New Year's resolutions, and then you get all the people who are like, oh, I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. I just do them straight away, all that kind of stuff. And I've noticed this, the two things I've seen a lot on the television, like over New Year's, is one is like, live your best life. Live your best life. Just think about that. Live your best life. Live your best life. I might get that tattooed somewhere, and do what you do. Like, I wonder who thinks of all this stuff. It's like a bit like, do what you do. Like, what does it even mean? It sounds like sort of something about wanking or something, or do yourself, cop on. I don't know. Anyway, so I thought because I'm going for like a little walk along the river, I'd maybe give some alternative New Year messages, more than one, to everybody out there. I did scribble down about 10 things on a piece of paper, but I've lost it, so it'll have to be a bit freeform. I'm not sure they're actually about climbing related, but don't worry. My daughter has advised me to do some mini-sodes, which are just small episodes. She's like, she's not a millennial. She's born in '98. I think she's not a millennial, but she kind of is going that way. She actually doesn't like millennials. She's like, oh God, Dad, millennials. Anyway, she was born before September the 11th, so technically I don't really see her as being a millennial. Anyway, she advised me I need to do some mini-sodes. So what I'm going to do, starting next week, I think every Wednesday or Tuesday, and whenever I get round to it, I might start doing like just talking individually about top tips. And I did I think I did about 50 top tips on my Instagram account, Psychovertical, and I might actually do, because when you do things on Instagram, you're very limited. You've only got like 300 words or something, or more, 1,000 words, 1,000 characters. So you're very limited. So every Wednesday, I'm going to do that. I'm totally going for it. I'm just going to, really go for it. Podcasting is the way forward. Podcasting is so much easier than writing. Christ almighty. No one reads anymore. That's the problem. Anyway, so every Wednesday, I'm going to try and do that. I quite like tips. So when I was in Poland the other week, someone was asking me what's my favourite tip, which was a good question. And I said, if you have like your water in an Alpine bottle it's always worth having an insulated cover for your Alpine bottle. I think an Alpine bottle is still probably the best receptacle for drink. There's some of these like metal bottles actually quite good. I can't remember any of the names of them. Hot bottles or whatever they call them. Anyway, they're actually quite good. But like I used one of those inside insulated cover on Denali, and it went down to minus 40, 50, whatever, some kind of very cold temperature. And they actually kept the stuff sort of unfrozen. Anyway, but an algae bottle and a cover. The best covers you can buy would be Aiguille Alpine, which is a British company. They basically make a copy or a homage to the old Outdoor Research insulated covers, which were really, really good. And the new Outdoor Research ones are not very good. I don't find them very good. I find them really hard to get the bottles in and out of. I don't find them very insulating, and I just don't think they're very good. And 40 Below, they make a quite a good one, like a neoprene one. It's very simple. But anyway, those two, Aiguille, the other one, and an insulated cover is quite good, because not only does it keep the stuff on the inside from freezing as quickly, it will still freeze, but it also stops it getting really hot if it's in hot weather, and it's just a good gadget to have. You can clip it onto you can like Velcro it onto the base of your shoulder straps or onto your harness, whatever, so you can have your water right there, which is good if you want to stay hydrated. Like, it's no good the number of trips you go on with people and they just have this like block of ice stuck inside their rucksack somewhere, carrying like a kilo of ice. It's kind of pointless. So an Nalgene bottle, my tip was, if you put your Nalgene bottle in upside down into the cover, ice always forms on the top of water first. So it means if it is super cold, the ice is on the bottom of your bottle, not on the top where the lid is. I think the translator probably didn't really understand what I was talking about, because no one seemed to get what I was saying. So anyway, so that's a little tip. That's the kind of hot tips you're going to get if you listen on a Wednesday sometime. So, but today I'm going to do some podcasts about the art of not suffering. But I need to reread, because I like to do it all just off the top of my head, rather than actually giving you any facts. There are some facts that's probably worth me double checking, like like your internal temperature and your external temperature, and a few things like that. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about the skin, and then I'm going to do about your body works in the cold, how there's no such thing as cold, and unless it's absolute zero, which is an absence of heat. Maybe, who knows? Yeah, that's why I need to read up on it, and do a few podcasts about how not to die, or how to stay comfortable in tough places. But anyway, today I just thought I'd like bang something out without really having to think about it. So I was going to talk about the subject of happiness, because maybe that's probably one reason why we all go climbing, is to be happy. And I've done a podcast about not dying. We'll probably cover that subject again. But after not dying, being happy is a good one to think about. So happiness is a good beginning of the year kind of thing, because you can listen to me waffle on, and you might sort of take something on board, and you might do it for like 3 days, and then just like forget about it. So then I'll just tell you again next year. So I've covered the low-hanging fruit of happiness to begin with. So I seem to get quite a lot of people contacting me. Like I wrote an article called something to do with acid in your veins. Anyway, I wrote a few things about like mental health. I don't like the term mental health, anymore. Like I don't like the term dyslexia either. I call it brain sickness. It kind of seems more like human, a more human scale kind of thing, less sort of bureaucratic. So if you go to hospital and say I'm suffering from brain sickness, I don't know. I think it's maybe it's a bit Victorian. I quite like that Victorian kind of thing. But anyway, so I get quite a lot of people emailing me about stuff like that for some reason. I'm nowhere qualified to respond, but I generally like say something or other. Like someone sent me a message. If he's listening to this, I do apologise for the story, but he sent me a message about someone committing suicide who he knew, and I seem to have had kind of a sort of a strange, close relationship with their suicide all my life. I don't know why. I think maybe it's something that stalks you. Suicide. Anyway, I seem to have known a strangely large number of people who've killed themselves. So it's kind of, I find it an interesting topic. Somebody pulled me up on it, someone who was a qualified brain doctor, that I'd used the word, I'd said that suicide was a privilege, was a sign of privilege or something. Told me that lots of people committed suicide on the Eastern Front in the Second World War. Not sure that was proving either of us was right, but anyway, so people have writing me about things like that sometimes. Anyway, and this person wrote to me about his someone committing suicide. I wrote something back, but then I realised actually his son had committed suicide, and well, I think what I'd said had some, I think it was still the same if it was your son or someone you knew. God, sounds a bit depressing, this podcast already. Anyway, that's the thing about suicide, it's pretty depressing. Or not, who knows. But I've lost my train of thought now. I should write more things down. Anyway, so the main thing for happiness, I think, is maybe to really think about it a little bit more deeply than that. Like, what is happiness? So I'd say, being a believer in stoicism and all that good stuff, I'd say that happiness is an absence of misery, and really happiness isn't really anything at all. I could probably just completely get rid of the whole idea of happiness. It's something you have on a card that you buy for someone because you have to, and give to them, and many happy returns and all that kind of stuff. So really, maybe what you want is between the spectrum. You want to lie between the spectrum of like joy and misery, maybe. I don't think halfway to misery could be called happiness, but it's definitely not being miserable is the aim. So I think language is really important. How we talk about these things, how we think about these things. I think often we're kind of trapped. We're kind of trapped in the words we use a little bit. So I used to have this girlfriend who was training to be a Olympian, and she used to have these really hard turbo sessions on a bike, like really hard, like you'd be kind of being sick afterwards, and absolutely dreaded doing these sessions. And then she called them the killer sessions, and they really were, kind of really, really grim. Anyway, so one day I said, why don't you call them like gold sessions instead? And she did, and it made a huge difference. Made it a lot easier. So we're human beings actually, we're pretty simple things. just move the words around, and that's what advertising is all about. So maybe focus on like the stoical view is that you're laying in a puddle. You have no house, you have no food, you have no money, you have no family. You're laying in this puddle with this piss-stained blanket, in the elements. But at least you've got a blanket, So when you're stressing that you've only got an iPhone 10, or you're, that's not a cause, for to be down. So Stoic. So imagining less is maybe is a good thing to do. You always have options downwards. Things can always be worse, and there's always someone worse than you. I once went to a spinal unit, and there was someone we knew who had broken their spine, and they were like quadriplegic. So that means basically pretty grim. But in the bed next to her was a girl who'd been on a go-kart, and her scarf had gone into the wheels, and it had broken her neck, and she was like not quadriplegic, what's it called? Anyway, she was like totally, couldn't do anything at all, could just like move her eyes. So there's always someone worse than you. God, this is getting really depressing. I should have had some, it's like New Year's Day, I should have, I've not even been like drinking or anything. Anyway, so it's Ireland, I think. Ireland brings you down. It's a bit, everyone's obsessed with and Galway's so depressing, it's always raining. It's also really nice, but like in Galway, when people say the weather's good, they generally mean like right now, like it's going to be raining in 10 minutes time. So anyway, so that was number one, is try and readjust what your ideas of happiness are. And if you have joy the whole time, that's not good either. Just try and ration out the joy, ration it so that you don't have too much of it, because a luxury becomes a necessity. So, and avoid the misery.
Just for one?
I think a big thing I've thought about recently is what a big effect junk has on us. Both like junk we put in our minds and sort of junk we put in our bodies. I've got this idea that poor people don't eat shit food, but shit food makes people poor. That's probably hanging around in Hull for a while, which is probably one of the poorest places you're gonna see in Europe. Made me think about that, but like I went through this. I probably watched too much Joe Rogan or something, but I remember when I was a kid, when I was probably about 10, my dad would always tell me that sugar was white poison, and I just ignored him, because my dad was one of his like physical training instructors in the Air Force, like basically a sadist, and his job was to make like young men like swim in the sea at like 5 a.m. in the middle of winter, and beast people all the time. So I just thought he was being a sadist and having a downer on sugar. But I started doing some sort of this intermediate fasting, because I'm very wary of cults for some reason. Cults and everything. But it's I don't know, it seemed to fit in with a lot of few like, stoical things. Like, anyway, it seemed like an interesting idea. So I started doing a bit of intermediate fasting. In fact, I would do intermediate fasting all week long. So I would only start eating at like 2 o'clock something. but not eat a lot. I just have like a cup of coffee, some milk in it at about 2 o'clock, and then I'd have my tea, and then that would be it. And I mainly did it to help with my focus, because I'm not very good at focusing. Like, as you probably can tell by these podcasts, my brain is not very focused. So like, I'm trying to finish this book, which is, like, just why do I take these things on? Like, I don't know why. If you can't, it's like, why did I start becoming a writer when I can't write, and all these it just doesn't make any sense, but take on this finishing this book project where I'm probably 70% through, having done all the illustrations, I've done all the writing, and now I have to do the design. You just have to really like focus on it. Like, I don't really make any having income apart from writing at the moment. So it's a bit like soloing a big wall, in that if you're sailing around the world in a yacht and you're not doing anything, you're still sailing around the world in the yacht. You could sit there with your gin and tonic, but the wind's still in your sails. But when you're soloing a big wall, if you're not actually doing anything, you're not going anywhere. If you're not hauling or leading or cleaning, you're not going anywhere. So writing's the same. When the whole project is yours, if you're not pumping out words, doing pictures, you're not going anywhere. So I started intermediate fasting, and I found it really, really good, and it probably fits in with a lot of ideas I think about a lot of kids. Schools I've been to with the bad kids, the bad kids in them, is they basically just eat shit all the time, crisps, cakes, bottles of Coke. It's just brain poison. But I don't want to be one of these people who are like cultish about these kind of things. Like, I think the sort of 80-20 rule stands for just about everything in life. So I think you can 20% of the time you can eat shit and it doesn't matter. But if you're only eating like good stuff, only good stuff like 20% of the time, then it doesn't matter. So I really tried to get rid of as much sugar and sort of carbs out of my diet, and it worked really well. And there's a lot of people, like, it's like telling people to suck eggs. It's like, don't eat shit and you won't feel shit. But I know myself, like, it's very easy to say it, much hard to do it, because we're like totally addicted to sugar. Like, yeah, some people aren't, but most of us are. We're like absolute fucking drug addicts. And a really good thing, I think, is if you ever go to a restaurant where there's a lot of people, if you look for the really fat person and look at their eyes, how they look at the food, like, it really makes you really realise what's going on. Like, the sugar has all the power over you. It really does. Like, go and read the 48 Laws of Power. Great book, most popular book in prisons. And he needs to add in the law of sugar, because sugar, it's amazingly powerful stuff. And have you ever seen that? I don't know if you've ever seen that film They Live, with John Carpenter film, where this guy finds this pair of glasses, this homeless guy, and he puts them on, and suddenly you can see like loads of people that are aliens around him, and everyone on the television are aliens, and they're all kind of brainwashing everybody. But when you try and really cut the sugar out of your diet for about a couple of weeks, like, it's not actually that difficult. That you suddenly realise that everything is just like full of sugar or just not good for you. Like, you go into Starbucks and you just look, and it's just like everywhere is sugar, and everyone's having these drinks with like loads of cream and shite in them. And it's it's like being in a science fiction film. But like all good addictions, just one slip and you're right back there. So being back in England and travelling and back in Ireland, but straight back into it, back into the sugar, feeling fat, feeling unhealthy, feeling demotivated. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to, like, I think maybe like people like me, basically probably people in general, we kind of need a very strict regime to try and live under. That's why Islam's popular, and we like sort of religions which tell us what to do, what to eat, because it gives us it's kind of important, really. So I've been basically trying to live on this idea of not eating anything that's white or could be white, which is hashtag Tim Ferriss. That's in his book. And another thing is interesting is this idea of avoiding anything with ingredients printed on it, which I kind of do pretty well. Like my sister's like super intelligent woman, professional, and she said at one time, like, oh well, everything you cook, it's all fresh. And I was kind of like, what? Like, what? How else would you do it? And then I realised that because she's so busy that she eats more processed food, and she gives her kids more processed food, just because it's just kind of easy. And so that's kind of maybe it's good to focus on what you're doing right, rather than just like beast yourself for all the things you're doing wrong. But so basically what we live on is I just make one lot of curry. Just got to love that curry at the beginning of the week, and we just make enough for 5 days. Usually have like some fish 2 days a week as well as like a separate thing, and then I cook that, and I cook the rice. Yes, it's brown rice and it could be white, so technically that's but the 80-20 rule's in force, so I'm allowed to eat some rice, and freeze it all up in the freezer, and then there's no like escape. Your food's there, it's all done, which seems to work quite well. So that's so the food thing. I reckon if people could control what they ate, they'd within 2 weeks they start feeling much better about a lot of things. And it's easy to say that when you've done it, but it's much harder to stick to it. I think we're all sinners, aren't we, really? The other thing, point 3 of my New Year's stuff, is about 6 months ago I left my phone down the side of a couch somewhere in New Zealand, and they said, eventually they got back to us and said, we've left your phone down our couch. And I bought it in Kenya. It was actually a very super cheap phone. I was just like, no, just don't bother. You can just keep it. And I've been trying to not have a phone since about 2014, when I kind of realised how it's really bad for my attention span, and it was also really bad for being present. And we all know this, so this is like sucking eggs time for everybody, but I'll say it because maybe someone knows it like I did, and this might make them think just an extra little bit, push them over the cliff. But I tried to, so I realised that it really affected my relationships with my kids, it affected relationships with my wife, Vanessa, and it just mobile phones just turned you into a complete asshole, basically. And because everybody else is an asshole, it's hard to really to see it. even though secretly we do. It's like if everyone was wanking all the time, then you'd be like, well, they're all wanking, why can't I? So I tried. I got like a dumb phone, tried various things. The problem is, if you're like me, like, you have to be a social media whore like your whole life. It's like being in the mafia, social media mafia. Unless you're really nice to say, for 2020 I'm not going to go on social media, but basically my whole income would probably just die. So you have to do it. They pull you back. So I have to kind of do social media. So in the past I would say like, oh, I need to get a phone because I have to go on Instagram, or I have to go on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. So I'd end up getting another phone. But I managed to stay off it for about six or so months. A few things I noticed was, you realise everyone was wanking all the time and you weren't. Like, you go out for a meal, and you know, when someone was talking, other people would all just start looking at their phones, and it was like God, you ignorant fuckers, like, this person's talking, like, listen to what they're saying. And just general being a total cunt, basically, mobile phone cunt. But everybody else is doing it, why can't I? So it's probably one of these moments with the glasses. You put your glasses on, you realise everyone's fucking drunk on sugar, doped up on sugar, and doped up on data. The two together, it's a bad mix, really. So, but it's not that easy. Like, you know, flying, you need to have your boarding pass on your phone, and with banking, everything's on your phone. Like, if you want to buy something, they send you a text message and you haven't got a phone. And it really is, there's not a conspiracy in there to make people have phones, but that's kind of the way it is. So it is kind of it is very tough. But by not having a phone, it's interesting, this idea that, you know, so I'm not being like some sort of worthy person here, because as soon as, like, Vanessa bought a Nokia 120, like this super basic phone, it wasn't a smartphone, but when she, in her like current job, she had to have a smartphone because there was like a WhatsApp group or something. Again, like, why do you need to have a WhatsApp group where you're getting contacted like 5 a.m. with some information? Anyway, ban WhatsApp groups, that's what I say. Just print it out, or come and tell someone, ring someone up. If it's not worth ringing someone up, then don't bother. So anyway, so she had to get a smartphone. So as soon as I get that smartphone in my hand, I am like off like a total addict, you know, retweeting, checking my emails 20 times a minute. It's amazing how you just go straight back to it. And even if we are walking along and we're talking about me not having a phone, it makes me want to look at my phone that I don't have. It's a bit like that feeling when you feel like your phone buzzing in your pocket that you got a message, when you haven't got a message and you haven't got a phone and you haven't got a pocket. So yes, I hope I can stay off it, really, because it's just for your happiness levels, your attention span, just all that kind of stuff. If you want to be less miserable, get rid of your phone and just make alternative arrangements. So all my social media stuff that I have to do, I basically do it all on my computer. So I have like Flume, which allows me to do Instagram on my computer, and of course you can do like Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. So this is number 4. Is that I use this thing, the IFTT.com, I think it's called. So I try to only ever use Instagram because I find it a more positive kind of experience. generally. Instagram brings you down in some aspects because you feel like you've got a shit life. You know, I have a quite a good life, but it makes me feel like I've got a shit life. So if you've got a shit life, God, you're going to be, you know, really is going to make you realise how shit your life is. Although having known a lot of these people who are on Instagram, who you assume have a great life, they have a really shit life. I'll take it from me, they have like fucked up relationships, they're just miserable people, miserable, bitter, twisted, you know, they're not in a good place. So just think about that. And every time you see someone who's like high-fiving on some beach in Malibu, they're basically a twat, basically. They're a twat for even putting the picture up there in the first place. Like, I really don't like, you know, I have loads of pictures I could have put on Twitter and on Instagram, you know, hanging out with like 50 prostitutes in Trump Tower, all these pictures, you know, me in my Lamborghini in Dubai driving along, you know, high-fiving the prince. But I don't put those pictures up because why, you know, what happened to people? People used to be more what's the word? I've still got this problem with my word remembering thing. Anyway, people just didn't do that kind of stuff before. Anyway, so I basically use Instagram, and when I post on Instagram, it appears on Twitter and it appears on Facebook and other places, without me actually having to go to Facebook and Twitter if I can avoid it. And I do try and avoid going anywhere like that because I am a total addict. So the thing about addicts, they're always addicts. They never get over it. So you need to avoid those kind of places, because as soon as I go there, as soon as I'm in a car and I get hold of Vanessa's phone, I'm suddenly, you know, sending message, you know, retweeting stuff I shouldn't retweet, and just for the hit of it, just the endorphins of getting a response from somebody. So it's like throwing a stone. Hopefully it's going to hit someone, and they're going to come up and, you know, have a little fight or something. It's all the same. It's all some kind of violence. So using tools on your computer I find kind of handy. But the other thing that I use is I try to control that. So basically my whole life is about controlling the beast inside me, my beastly self, my animal self that just wants to run amok. So on a Mac you can get an app called Self-Control, which is very appropriately named, and it's free. You download it, and when you set up a blacklist of websites you don't want to visit. So on mine I'd have like The Guardian, BBC, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, various things. If you're addicted to pornography, you want to stick all them in there as well. If you're not addicted to pornography, stick them all in there as well. And so one said that men either have no pornographic magazines or they have a wardrobe full. And so yeah. So anyway, so once you set a timer. So I would set my timer basically from getting up in the morning till probably like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And once you start it, you basically cannot go onto any of those websites. Even if you switch your computer off, no matter what you do, they are completely blocked. So, which is really, really amazing. really, really amazing. Now Vanessa would be like, why don't you just have some self-control and don't go on them? I'm like, yeah, like it's like being a junkie having like a big syringe of heroin, you know, just like right next to you while you're trying to work. All you can think about is the heroin and not injecting it, which is the same as thinking about injecting it. So I'm sure on Windows you can actually find the same. There's probably another thing, but the main thing is you have to have a system where it blocks it on all browsers and everything else. If you are a junkie, and then the biggest thing if you're a junkie is admitting you're a junkie. Like if you get angry at people when they say you're a junkie, I'm not a junkie, well, that means you're a junkie. So anyway, so it's a good thing is just to try it for a while. Put your phone somewhere you can't have it. Download this software. Stop having sugar. All these kind of things, and see how it goes. And then the next thing I do is I'm not doing it at the moment on my current computer, but you can actually go into the terminal or into like the system and actually block websites forever. So there's no way you can look at them on your computer unless you have to go through all the hassle of actually going, looking up how to do it again to unblock it. So I generally, the two websites I used to have on that, number one was the BBC website, because I just don't like the BBC website anymore, and the Guardian, the same thing, I just don't like the Guardian anymore, which is funny. I was thinking this morning about how in 2006 I was invited to go on an expedition to Greenland, and in the process of the expedition going along, we got like a letter from David Cameron, who was the Tory party leader, and I was so outraged that we got this letter from him. I almost refused to go on the expedition unless we got a letter from Tony Blair, and at the time we had this like total moral certainty that this was the correct thing to do. And now looking back, I just think I was a bit of a twat, really. And so the idea for that younger self, totally morally certain, to think that one day you'd be blocking the BBC website, BBC News website. I still like a lot of BBC content. I just don't like the news anymore. It's an interesting fact. But anyway, so I just find that basically we live in a world full of traps. Media is full of traps, whether they're traps to make you buy stuff, traps that make you feel ugly or worthless, and you can pay someone to rectify that, or traps to make you angry. They're just full of traps, and the more traps you avoid, the further you'll go in life. You won't just be like dragging these fucking traps around every single day, especially in the morning. Like, do never look at the websites, news websites in the morning. Save it for, like, when I was a kid, I didn't read newspapers, but as I got older, the only newspaper I'd ever read was the Guardian, or the Independent. And the only reason I read the Independent was it said the Independent, and I thought it'd be independent, and I thought it was being a bit alternative. So, but really, you only had the news at 9 o'clock, news at 10 o'clock, maybe some news after the kids' TV programmes. You know, John Craven's News Round, kids' TV. So news was very. It was a very small part of your day. It was very rare that things were ever live. I remember when the SAS stormed the Iranian embassy in 1984, was it? 1982 and 1981, sometime in the 80s. That was live on television. That was like, when something was live, it was really big. And then, but I think the 24-hour news is like fucking toxic, absolutely toxic on people, and that would probably be my final point, would be to really turn down your exposure to the news media, to all that kind of stuff, to opinions, to everything else, because as soon as you start turning it down, get your news from podcasts. Like, find people you trust who do podcasts, and see what they're talking about. If things are really important, they'll come to the fore. Again, it's just the news is full of traps, really. It's all biased. It's biased. If it's as biased on the BBC as it is on Fox, it's as biased on NPR as it is on sort of talk radio. And I would say that from my experience of travelling around the world and living and talking to rednecks and people on guns and people who are pro-life and people who are socialists and ex-communists and everybody else, I'd say that the 80-20 rule is probably in force, in that 20%, nearly everybody is 20% wrong, and I would say that's an understatement. I would say nearly everybody is 50% wrong about everything, including me, including you, and some people might be like, that's not true, I'm totally right. That's not true. So I think, so the final thing was like, when David Bowie died, I remember like someone said that one of his aims in life was to find the middle, was to get to the middle, I think. And I think when you start turning down the news and get rid of your phone, get rid of as much social media as you can, try and avoid commenting on what other people are saying, because no one's reading it really. It's all violence, basically. Everything is violence of some form or other. Violence and traps. Just avoid getting involved. Just walk away. I think if you change the way you interact with the rest of the world around you, you will become a much healthier and less miserable person. You'll be less anxious. You'll feel better about yourself. You'll feel better about everybody else. You'll be more forgiving. And I think it's a very Christian thing, but be very you tend to see everyone more like who they are, like they're just people make mistakes, people believe strange things, and I think basically your tolerance for intolerance increases, which is pretty important these days, and you're less controlled, and I think you tend to know it as well. So there's a few thoughts for you. If you like this podcast, then please subscribe on it, what all those things are. All that social media stuff, iTunes, and that kind of stuff. If you like this podcast, drop me an email, andy@psychovertical.com. Share it. Just give us some feedback. I could speak at length about how to deprogram yourself and be a happier, less miserable person. But this is supposed to be about climbing, so I shall save that for a later date. But anyway, so check out the next one. Hopefully it'll be about how not to suffer in the mountains, in nature. Anyway, hope you enjoy this podcast, and goodbye.